Hey everyone, welcome to the Radio Wire. I'm Bruce Carlson, N9MDE. Well, today I want to talk about the past ELF communication system that the submarines used. And, back in the day, I was quite young. The antenna system was coming into the UP here, the Upper Peninsula, Michigan, where I live. And I remember it had got installed, some controversy, didn't know a lot about it. And so it's where I am here in Marquette. It'd be where it was west of us here, maybe 40 miles over the Republic area. And I didn't hear a lot about that anymore, or think about it much, I guess. But I went up to Michigan Technological University, studied electric power. One of the problems on our power system analysis test was if you had a transmission line and you had an antenna next to it, close to it, I don't remember the distance now, and it was at 84 Hertz, use the same formulas that we use at 60 Hertz to determine how much voltage is induced on the transmission line. And it might have been a distribution level line, not transmission. I don't remember. That was a while ago. But so we had that. I thought, well, that's interesting, because I wasn't a ham radio operator yet, but I certainly had a lot of interest in that and did a lot of things in that area, certainly, as I've talked about in the past. But so I thought, well, that's pretty interesting, and I got that problem right, correct answer. So that was that, and moved on from college, and years later, I came back up here and I worked at the utility company. And part of my duties there was to be involved with supporting the mitigation of the effects of the ELF system on the distribution. And so it would, voltage would get induced, it would cause a lot of problems. They had to use special isolation to deal with it, and it was in some areas, and they had testing that they did, and so there was a government contractor that supported that. I never seen any of the transmitter, the ELF transmitter, anything to do with any of that. I just work with the mitigation of it, which, to be honest, at times it was kind of a pain, but that was part of our responsibilities there with the utility, and the government paid the utility to do that work, to take care of it. So then I don't know exactly when, if it was at the time I worked with it, but it was soon after, because I remembered, I did find out that the frequency was around 84 Hertz with this transmitter system. So they had a 1 megawatt transmitter, they had a very large current, a single conductor antenna with a very large current. I thought it was like 400 amps. So then, since then, I did a little research on the ELF system, as far as not the mitigation, but the antenna system itself and how they communicated with the submarines. And some of that I probably learned when I worked with a government contractor back then, but a lot of this is what came after, when I put two and two together, because I realized that the reason that problem was on my test back then was because that was really about the ELF antenna and the problems that it could cause for the local power distribution. So, and Michigan Tech, I think they still do, they had quite a very strong electromagnetics department, antennas, power system, all of that, which I was into the power part of it. And so I put two and two together, and I think that Michigan Tech probably was either did the research to develop that, or was involved with mitigation of it with the utilities. I'm not sure. But interesting. So then I learned a little bit about the transmitter, its and antennas itself, as I talked about. So I'd like to show that, give an explanation of what that really involved. So 84 hertz, a very low frequency, extra low frequency, the ELF system, that's what they call the communication with the submarines, and at a 1 megawatt transmitter. So I thought this chart would be a good way to explain things from here. So ELF, extra low frequency, they used dipoles. They had two, one at 14 miles long and another at 28 miles long. And, a half wavelength at that frequency, 84 hertz, would be a couple thousand miles long. So that's not practical. So what they did was they grounded each end with this grid on each end. They grounded that, and so basically they're using the the Earth as part of the antenna, really. And so that was why it was chosen there, because this location, because there's a lot of rock, and so rock doesn't conduct like ground, because it doesn't hold the water that soil would, so it's not as conductive, right? So that's what they needed, because they wanted the Earth to be part of the antenna. So, 84 hertz, 1 megawatt, probably some kind of a transmission line, that they made like a balance line, not like a RG58 coax or something like that. And I understand it was about 400 amps, just a single wire up on poles like that, and then this ground plane on either end. And they used two of them. I'm not even sure why they used two, but they did. One half the length of the other, which is interesting. Maybe it depended on the location they were at. And then the other part of this is that it's a very low bandwidth, so it's a very slow data rate. So it could take several minutes back then to transmit, a message. I think that they could have used a coded, meaning surface, and then use other means to communicate they need to surface. So that was the biggest thing. They needed to tell them when to surface. But who knows what kind of signal they actually used with that. Coded, I'm sure, or some kind of a simple code just to get them to raise up underwater. And the salt water is going to really attenuate the signal. It's not really bad. In fact, I watched a YouTube channel, a gentleman talking about it, and he explained what happens under seawater, and it doesn't travel very far. But so yeah, that's I wanted to talk about that, and I hope you found that interesting. And so yeah, they don't use what was interesting, the other countries, there's like four different countries that use this same communication, and they all seem to at the same time, and they all seem to quit using it at the same time, which is interesting. And they don't use it anymore. I don't think any of the countries do, and they have other methods that they use. And that's another. I've done a little research on that, and there's a bunch of methods that they had. I don't know what they actually use now. So, well, I've enjoyed talking about this, and I hope you found it interesting. So, bye for now.